Welcome to the Essential Skills for Humaning podcast, where we explore the fundamental abilities and insights that make us better humans. Here's your host, Christina Eanes.
Hi, everyone. Christina Eanes here. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Essential Skills for Humaning. Today, we have Dr. Henry Venter. Welcome, Henry.
Thank you very much, Christina. Thank you for having me.
Well, we are excited to hear about the relationship with Doomscrolling and Isolation. But before we get to that, can you share a little bit about your background with our listeners?
Yes, I am a professor at National University. I'm a director of the Masters of Human Behavioral Psychology program. And I'm also a clinical psychologist, and I run a very small practice online.
Nice. Yeah. So you have lots of knowledge to share with us today.
Yes. Yeah.
So we're talking about the relationship with doom scrolling and isolation. Let's first, can we define some terms? Let's define doom scrolling and isolation and how we're using it today.
Yeah. Well, scrolling became part of our life since we all have the internet, and we have our platforms that they upload, and the algorithm follows you. So we became used to, they open up and there's some news and you scroll here and there. Doom scrolling is where people start to incessantly look at especially negative news as something catches their attention and they can't stop it. They go, well, as you know, the internet is designed with links. So one link is just there. It becomes so easy.
The rabbit hole.
And they can't stop. And you talk to people and you'll often find that they spend incessant times just reading. I have young people that would go to bed with their phones and keep scrolling through just, negative things, reading about things, feeling terrible, and just keep going.
Yeah.
And that's trying to fall asleep. And, they complain they can't sleep well. It's like, but this has become very invasive. So doom scrolling is where I can't stop scrolling, especially negative news, bad news.
Yeah.
Become obsessed with it.
So news or social media or just anything that we're constantly scrolling and, becoming obsessed with.
Yeah. Great examples, once again, political news in the previous election cycle, this election cycle. A lot of people reported that they just could not stop reading about things and and as you know, often you're on one platform, you get one version of the news. And as you've seen, media is not there to share good news.
Yeah.
They create headings that is sensational, that links you in. And they love bad news. They love negative news because they have found that more people are drawn to that and read more. And so it's not the world anymore where you get a more balanced, objective news. They want clicks and they don't care if we can just keep going. And a lot of people find, and especially what we have found, young people have a huge problem just scrolling through the internet. Sometimes not just doom scrolling, but just become this hyper follower of other people.
Yeah.
They literally become spectators, feeling more horrible about themselves because, remember, the other thing with the internet, a lot of what we see online is actually packaged.
Yeah.
It's not real.
Right.
Like I have this famous example of one of the person with the most followers online. Last year during St. Patrick's Day, everybody takes pictures of themselves drinking a beer or something. So this person also wanted to put in something online where that person is then visiting a bar. The only difference was they rented out a whole bar. They had a team of 18 people, a whole production crew to take that one piece of video and put that online.
Wow.
And people watch that and think, why don't I look so beautiful? Well, look at all the wonderful atmosphere. It is all fake. Honestly, It was all fake to create that.
Right.
And so a lot of what people watch, of course, is fake.
Yeah.
And Photoshop. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
sensationally. I am astounded on how many times some of the major people online, what they call influencers, a lot of people follow and scroll through this stuff, are called out.
Yeah.
They Photoshop this stuff, and I would think, well, that's going to make a dent. No, it doesn't. People just keep going. I mean, and it doesn't stop them. Even they lose a couple of followers, but yeah, they still have millions. And so this is the danger of doom scrolling, but also just scrolling and following people that we have found.
So not just the negative stuff, but the, we'll call it quote unquote positive stuff that leads us to comparing ourselves potentially.
That's right. That's right.
So what is the relationship between this and isolation?
Well, the isolation became more profound during COVID. Because people isolated, started having problems. And we then started to look like, did COVID cause this isolation problem? And amazingly, we found no, the isolation problem, especially among young people between 18 and 25, actually started about 10 years before COVID, and not just in the United States, all over the world. You take countries like South Korea, very modern country, very developed country, a city like Seoul, which you think, Seoul, that would have a soul, that would have people, there's so much going. And I'm a great follower of K-dramas, me and my wife, so we watch a lot in the modern cities, and you think, well, there's so much going on. One of the highest levels of isolation among young people in the world, and that is all over the world. You have defined as high levels of isolation, and that started about 10 years. COVID just accentuate, and it keeps going. What we have also found is that despite the high level of development in mental health treatment, as you know, with the internet, the good positive thing is it made the access to treatment so much more easier. That's why I let go of my brick and mortar practice and see people online. It's so much easier. But also in medication and all other treatments, we made great progress. And we would think, well, and we have so much more services offered. So we would think, if we compare our mental health figures among young people, it's 18 to 25, to 20 years ago, there must be a great drop. Surprisingly not.
Yeah.
We actually have increased profoundly in mental health problems. Visits to ER with young people that's responded, suicide attempts, suicide. And in actual fact, it led to the outgoing Surgeon General of America, Dr. Murthy, to say that isolation is the new pandemic. Now, he actually published a white paper. It didn't make a dent. It didn't go viral because, unfortunately, he published that in the last 2 years during the height of our last political election, which took up a lot of bandwidth. And I think it got drowned out. I followed a lot of other people because I remember I was making a presentation on isolation in young people in Canada the Friday, and Monday I came home, and on that Friday he published a white paper on isolation. I thought, wow, this is really something. So a lot of people in this field is public health, mental health, psychology is looking at this and realize that this is a big problem. Now, a lot of these young people that become isolated, where do they go? They go online. What do? They start doom scrolling, which feeds their isolation, because we know what isolation does. Isolation leads, if you have any mental health issues like anxiety or depression, it will accentuate.
Yes.
The human being is just not designed to be alone. I remember I worked with veterans years ago. So they brought down as one veteran. I evaluated about 3,500 veterans over a 7-year period for the VA. And this one veteran that came into me, he was completely in a state of anxiety. He was just in very bad shape. So what did you do? I said, well, I started isolating, didn't want to see people. I thought people are my problem. I will just, not see people. But then he was in town in the suburbs. Said, this is the problem. I need to get out. So he bought him a place up in the mountain, completely alone. Little plot of land. And what happened? you start seeing people, but
Yeah.
not real people.
Yeah.
Isolation can lead to psychosis.
Absolutely.
But what young people do that's isolating now, that's very disconcerting, is that they start going online and they are naturally drawn to negative things.
Yeah.
Or they are drawn to watching other people. And that is the wrong consumption of information on the internet. It's just become a follower. They also call them followers.
Yeah.
And the problem is we are not supposed to just be followers. You're supposed to be alive. You're supposed to
Involved.
be engaging with life.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I would say not just
it.
young people of all ages,
And that's
right?
what I'm saying here is applicable to the next category, because a lot of my work is with young adults, 18 to 25, but it's applicable to adults, like 25 to 40.
Of all ages,
and even older people. I won't even get into the older people that start going online because they discovered that the same thing. But people start then become spectators.
Mm-hmm.
They just watch other people. And all we do is I actually belong to a group on Facebook where the administrator says that we may not use emoticons. We even have a name, emoticon, which is just click on a little thing. It says you gotta write something. I like this picture because he wants people in the group to be more than spectators. Not just click and be a follower, but write something, be engaging so we can follow. And because the more we become followers, the more you isolate.
Yeah.
And the more you can go out.
Yeah. Well, and I'm also curious too, because not just followers, but I see several people that I know that put their lives online. And I think it's almost for external validation. And if they're not getting that, I could see how that could also, or even if they are, I could see how that could lead to isolation and loneliness as well. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, because a lot of it goes back to the example that I use. A lot of people want to put their life online, start saying, well, I can't put this online, and it becomes a false version. I can't put, I can't put any picture online. We got to look for the right picture, this picture, and but normally we just take pictures, but now you look at pictures. Yeah, bad pictures was just part of life. What we're creating is very false,
curated,
very curated, unnatural.
Yeah,
and so people become anxious about trying to create an image instead of just being natural, which fits into this isolation to the point where you feel, well, since I can't be that, then I can't do anything, which has led among young people to start talking, just giving up. And so we start calling it the giving up generation. They started saying, well, it's not even worth trying because I will never be able to make it that big. And therefore I can just stop trying. I can just as well give up.
Yeah.
And that's in a crucial period of their life. And this also connects to some other problems we now start seeing is that it seems over the last 20 years, the world that we created is not helping to produce emotional grit, emotional tenacity in our young people. And when they leave high school, and often it's all made very easy, anybody can pass. You just lower the standards. But when you leave high school, the world is not cutting you any favor.
No.
Nobody's going to give you a paycheck for doing nothing. The reality of the world is people lose jobs. Companies cut, companies do this. And that's where young people realize just to make a living, I've got to work 2 jobs. They go to college and often find I've got to work 2 jobs just to get through this. It becomes incredibly hard. And so because of that lack of emotional tenacity, emotional strength, psychological inner strength, the young people are now drawn to isolate, but they think they're not isolating because, hey, I'm still online.
Yeah.
And in actual fact, I think this is creating the false idea that no, you're actually more and more isolating. You're not engaging with people. You are not really out there growing. You are just in this group while I'll play a game, but nobody knows me. I have another name, an image that I use.
quote unquote friends.
Even though you play a game with these people, they know nothing about you. You're still in your life and can spend hours there and come out, and it hasn't contributed to your growth. In fact, a lot of this doom scrolling and overuse of the negative side of the internet increase stress levels and make it even harder to go out. But also being overwhelmed. Sometimes I just cut myself off from the news, and during some of these heavy political cycles, clean out your homepage of YouTube, because whatever you listen to, they will follow you. So you start specifically clicking on music and to clean it out and say, okay, I take some time to just step away from this because this is not going to help me. How do I feed myself with positive, engaging, strengthening information, like good podcasts?
Yeah. Which actually is what I'd love to get into in the remaining time that we have is, so for anyone of any age, right? So doom scrolling, getting rid of the isolation. I'm hearing one of the first strategies that you have for us is to essentially put it away and connect with people in person.
That's right. And whatever you can do, a lot of what I do with my clients is literally, and I've seen other therapists do that, give young people assignments to go out, not just
any age people, right?
I actually tell people any age to give them assignments. So this week, last week I had a guy at 35. And I said, and I had a female client as well. Their goal is to date this week. They're not dating. They just started isolating. 3 years. Like, well, I see a lot of people. I do. Say, no, if you want to meet somebody, you need to accept the date. And so I think this week I will hear, did you accept the one? Say, well, I actually have a standing dinner invitation from someone. Well, take it. You're not marrying the person. You're just going out for dinner.
Just getting to know people. Yeah.
Because remember, we become better by doing something.
Yeah.
Even if we fail. But the only way that we can become better at socializing is socializing.
Yeah.
We can't read about socializing. We got to do it.
Yeah.
And that's so important to go out and do these things. At least once, go out somewhere.
Yeah. So what about maybe the people who are already good at socializing? They do have social stuff, right? But they still find themselves when they're bored, when they have a few hours maybe on their way to bed, like you're talking about. They get sucked into scrolling. Is there maybe it's the dopamine hit? I'm not sure. Maybe it's the retiree who's bored, the person at work who's stressed out. What are some ways that they can break that addiction to the doom scrolling? So
the first step to changing anything is to gain insight. You got to understand this is not helping.
Yeah.
So perhaps listening to this podcast, they realize I have a problem. That's the first. This is not helping me. And once you have that insight, you decide, I need to change this. The power is in my hand. Seek out positive news. Change your algorithm by starting to click on positive things, because then the algorithm will follow you. You will see, but seek that out. The wonderful thing about the internet, as much as they're negative things, there are very positive things. It's very yin and yang. So I'm not saying cut out the internet. I mean, use it correctly. Use the news feed correctly. But also we do consume news on the internet a lot. So it's important to also start scheduling what we call screen-free time.
Yes.
Where I'm not doing this. Practice something else. Apart from set time limits, curate your news feed that you don't unfollow certain things, seek out positive news. The big thing is you also got to balance it with something else. Go out, just take a walk for a half an hour.
Without your phone. I'll see people scrolling as they're walking.
The phone nowadays has become so essential. It's also a safety device. If I go out, I need my phone. Yeah. But you can just put the phone in your pocket or go for a walk, find positive music, and just listen to that music while you walk. And when you come home, put a step in it. Instead of walking, coming in, and then sitting down, choose to go do something else.
Yeah.
When you eat, yes, put the phone over there. It will ding if it's urgent. But eat without the phone around you. Go and take a bath with candles and light and all that.
And not your phone.
And not your phone. Here's what you can do.
Yeah.
The great thing is if you have and everybody probably has, is a Bluetooth speaker. You can make your phone in the room, put music on and put the speaker in there with you. And you can listen to music, but you don't have the buttons. You're there to now listen to that. But you got to create screen-free time.
Turn off the notifications.
Yeah. And realize you've been used.
Yes.
These sites that as all this negative news wants to use you so that they can get clicks, so they can advertising time. Once you understand, they're not helping me. And the other thing is, one of the major things that I teach clients that can help them to change is focus on the things you can change. Why? You can step away sometimes from something like a lot of people are consumed with the politics and everything and say, can you change that?
Yeah.
Now, anything. Can you change anything that's happening now? No. You can only change it when you vote again. But now, you can do nothing about that. So focus on what can you change.
Yeah.
Because what leads to this feeling of being overwhelmed and getting involved in this doomscrolling is we get involved in things that we can change. Step away from what you can change. Yeah. Because focus on what you can change. Well, what can you change? Well, my activity level. Yeah. The way I eat, I really eat bad. Well, get in your car or something, go to the store, buy better stuff. Because remember, you consume what you buy.
Yep.
Nobody carries the stuff into your house. Go out and buy healthy things. Focus on what you can control, and that will often give you a more positive feedback. What you can control, let it go.
Yeah.
This is what it is. I don't like what's happening, but I can't change that.
Can't do anything about it, so I'm not going to worry about it.
Yes.
I love it.
Because even if you worry about it, it only adds stress. It doesn't change anything. So why would you do that? You know,
to yourself.
You don't need to like it to let it go. I hate what's going on. Sure, I agree with you. I hate what's going on, but I can control that.
Yeah.
What can I control? I can control going for a walk. That's what I can control. That's what I need to focus on. Because remember, your focus becomes your reality.
Yeah.
And your focus is also what generates your activity level. And so that's why it's so important to begin to see that we need to break that cycle. But the isolation, I want to encourage young people. The first step is reach out at least. And since therapy is so available online, it really helps. You can access it. It's some platforms are very affordable if you don't have insurance, but start talking to somebody. It makes a world of difference. I know somebody else who's in therapy now with another therapist. And last week, the therapist said, you have to have one social event before you see me again.
Nice.
She went online. She looked for something in an area. She found this. In a lot of places, they have these trivia nights, which they have in restaurants or everywhere. And she found one, and she actually went out because she has to see the therapist next week.
There you go.
And she actually met a lot of people. They're meeting once a month. And so she's now going to go once a month. And so the value of connecting with therapy, even if you don't want to see other people, at least start seeing a therapist.
There you go.
That's very important.
So speaking of which, before we get to your final piece of advice, can you share a little bit about your products and or services, anything you want the listeners to know? Because I know they're going to want to learn more.
Yes, I started a YouTube channel, which is not 100% going yet, but they will be able to find me there on YouTube, on Restart. A lot of young people have a problem. They feel they failed. And so I started gathering information. And that's why I call the channel Restart After Failure, where we will focus on just providing people with news. The whole idea of failure, we should never have used the word failure because there isn't something like failure.
Learning.
It's just an action that didn't render the results that you had in mind, which you now can learn from, which is actually a great experience.
Yeah. Growth mindset.
Because if I went left on this route and it didn't work out, I never have to take that route again. So now I can take the others. I don't know if the others are going to work out, but we created this idea in our society all over the world that people can fail.
Yeah.
And when they fail, a lot of people just feel I can't start again. It's so hard. And actually, it's all just a learning process. And that's why I say, all right, So that's important. You can find me there. And I'll post more material, as we go along from this year onwards.
Excellent. Any maybe a website or LinkedIn or what's the best way?
The YouTube channel. We'll start there.
Okay.
I'm pretty busy.
We'll put a link to that.
I'm pretty busy as it is, so
cool.
I don't want to be a bad example of being too busy.
No worries. We'll put a link.
I'm an avid hiker, and so I have to spend time. This year alone, we are hiking the Lost Coast for a week. And then in September, we hiked the Tour de Mont Blanc for, I think, 12 days. We hike around the mountain and to get away from it. So I got to keep time for that as well.
Cool. So we'll send them to the YouTube channel.
Yes.
So what is then your final piece of advice for our listeners?
My final piece of advice is just you can change what you have inside. If you know you have a problem, determine what the problem is and do something about it, because nobody else is going to come and do it for you.
Yeah.
Just start doing something, reach out, make a change, just understand this is a problem. What is the first 3 steps I need to take to change it, and do that. And even if you do only one of the 3, it's going to start making a difference, because it's all about just creating momentum. Once you create momentum, you start making more change.
I love it. Especially the accountability part of that, right? No, let's not wait for someone else to come solve our problem.
Nobody.
Solve it. Oh,
yeah, you gotta take responsibility. Nobody is gonna do it for you.
Nice. I love it. Oh, thank you so much for spending some time with us today.
Thanks, Christina. It was a joy talking to you, and my best of luck for your podcast. And I hope people listen to this. I see you have some great information on your podcast in the past as well. And this is an example of replacing some of the doom scrolling with just, a short, positive half an hour.
There we go.
You can take something out of it to go implement.
Nice.
Transform your organization with Eanes Training. Our premier interpersonal skills training programs are tailored to enhance your organization's employees in communication, emotional intelligence, leadership, and more. We have a catalog of expert-led courses designed to meet the dynamic needs of today's workforce. With highly engaging in-person, hybrid, and remote sessions, we can help elevate your organization's performance and success. Learn more at eanestraining.com. Thank you for tuning in to the Essential Skills for Humaning podcast. We hope you've gained valuable insights to enhance your journey as a human being. Remember, practice makes progress. Keep honing those essential skills, and until next time, keep being the best version of yourself. For more resources, visit eanestraining.com.